Good morning, friends and enemies. Today we will be doing a Dynasty rookie mock draft based on a real-life NFL mock draft, okay? So we've got a special treat today, all right? NFL.com's Chad Reuter, well-respected reporter, dropped a 4-round NFL mock draft, which we don't get a ton of this time of the year, especially not from a source like NFL.com. So I was excited to jump into this one. We will be looking at the NFL.com mock draft, drafting a Dynasty Superflex rookie draft based on those landing spots, draft capital, etc. We do this once a week, so if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And I am ready to jump in. I'm also going to do this a bit differently. As always, here are all the fantasy-relevant skill players that were drafted in Chad Reuter's mock draft. We'll talk through that, see what we see, what kind of differences we've seen in this one based on just trends and things like that. We'll talk through the actual mock draft. And then I'm just going to display the entire rookie draft that I did. Rather than going pick by pick and breaking each pick down like I typically do, we're going to throw it all up on the screen. Just wanted to try something new. You guys let me know if you like this format better. Maybe saves you a little bit of time. Maybe you get the same value. I don't know. You yell at me. So based on this draft, the very first thing that pops out is you've got Jackson Dart moving further and further and further up draft boards. Okay, he is officially landed as the number 7 overall pick. So you've got Cam Ward, 1 overall to Tennessee, the Giants, 3 overall, Shedeur Sanders, and then Jackson Dart goes to the New York Jets with the 7th overall pick. Again, this mock draft happened on March 21st, so this was after the Justin Fields signing. You've got 5 wide receivers in the first round. If you count Travis Hunter, first time I've seen Isaiah Bond, the Texas wide receiver, creep into the first round. Omarion Hampton, who is a regular in the first round, continues to stay there. 21st overall to Pittsburgh. You've got Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland, 12 and 14, almost back-to-back. In round 2, you have both the Ohio State running backs, Trayvon Henderson going to Dallas, 44th overall, and Quinshon Judkins going to the Chargers, 55th overall. Then we've got a newcomer as well to most of these mock drafts, Jaden Blue, Texas pass-catching running back, goes to Philadelphia, 2nd round, 64th overall pick. 3 picks later, we got Caleb Johnson going to Cleveland. Couple more quarterbacks go off in round 3. We've got Jalen Milroe to Vegas. We've got Tyler Shuck to Pittsburgh. And nothing too crazy after that. The typical wide receivers, I think, have gone off in the 3rd round. We do have R.J. Harvey, Cam Scatabo, and Bashal Tutin go to the 4th round. So we are creeping into day 3 there, which, the likelihood of those guys hitting gets smaller and smaller the further down they go in the draft. But some pretty good landing spots. R.J. Harvey in New Orleans, regardless of how much I don't like him. A lot of opportunity to be had there. Cam Scatabo to Denver is a beautiful landing spot. And then Tutin to Kansas City. So based on these draft spots, you can, if you want, pause the video, recreate your own rookie draft right now if you want. You can compare it to what I throw up on the screen afterwards, or we could all just shut our mouths and just get along. So based on these landing spots, here is the rookie draft. No surprise, jeanty goes 1 overall. You've got the 2 running backs, jeanty and Hampton going back-to-back, both first-round capital. Jeanty to Las Vegas. We've got Omarion Hampton going to Pittsburgh, which is a super run-friendly offense, of course, with Arthur Smith. Cam Ward goes at 3. Tyler Warren goes at 4. He's moved up a little bit because, again, I love the landing spot with Denver. I think Sean Payton's going to know how to use him beautifully. Now, Matthew Golden, the clear wide receiver 1 here, he goes 23rd overall, but he goes to Green Bay, where Green Bay badly needs a real wide receiver 1 to step up, and I think that could be Golden. Reed's their slot guy. Watson tore his ACL. Wicks can't catch the ball. So I think he could step in and be a contributor, a high-level contributor from day 1. So that's a big movement there. It's kind of like the best landing spot I've seen Matthew Golden go to in the majority of these mock drafts. You got Shedeur, who's a number 3 overall pick, so I'm not going to let him slide in a Superflex draft past the 1-6, so I take him at 6. Hunter, I'm moving up to the 1-7. The more I think about this, and you guys have kind of heard my energy as the videos have progressed, I am more in line with Hunter being a wide receiver with whatever team he plays for. I think there's a good chance that he plays both ways for the team, but I do think that if the Patriots specifically take him, I think he will immediately be their best playmaker on offense, and I think they're going to utilize him at a very high volume because they have dependable cornerbacks already, with Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis being a good man coverage defender and cornerback, and that's typically the defensive playbook that the New England Patriots run. So I'm sure he'll be used on both sides, but I do think a landing spot like New England would force him to be used on offense often. After Hunter, we have the other top 7 quarterback. Again, these are quarterbacks when they go high in the draft capital. I don't try to argue with the NFL. These are players that have a ton of value in Superflex leagues, and their value sticks way long after the rookie drafts. All right, so Jackson Dart goes 7 overall to New York. He'll be battling Justin Fields for the starting job. I think Justin Fields got signed, obviously, but the money does not mean that he's in New York for more than this year. And I think if you take a player 7th overall in the NFL draft, which the Jets did here with Jackson Dart, you are picking them because they're supposed to be a high-level starter at the position you're drafting him. So obviously a lot of talent still on the board, but again, like quarterbacks, top 7 draft capital, those are ones I'm just not willing to let slide. And a lot of people out there are going to be like, that's a terrible draft pick. This is going to come from people that have probably never even watched Jackson Dart or watched any film from Jackson Dart and are continuously wrong about players that are drafted highly in the NFL draft. You know, Bo Nix has happened 17 years in a row and everyone's wrong about it. And it's always people chirping that literally don't watch Jackson Dart play at all. So I'm going to let the NFL speak as it relates to quarterbacks and the draft capital there. After Dart, we've got Tet McMillan, who has typically been the wide receiver 1, but he does drop to Seattle, 18. And I like the landing spot from a fit perspective. Like him being their real true outside wide receiver is great, but JSN is going to be a volume hog. And Sam Darnold, I don't know how well he's going to play with the pressure that Seattle's offensive line is going to allow there. So Tet, pretty good landing spot on paper, but the draft capital is, a spot where we see wide receivers do well, but we also see wide receivers typically kind of a coin flip at this spot, whether or not they're real legit NFL wide receiver 1s. We took Travion Henderson after that. I mean, he goes to Dallas, early second round capital, mid second round capital, that landing spot, that talent. Like I'm not going to let him fall any further. Egbuka goes to Dallas as well. I mean, these are two players that are going to an offense that could have opportunity immediately. Egbuka will never be the wide receiver 1, but that's kind of the player he is, right? CeeDee Lamb's there to suck up 160 targets, and Egbuka is going to get Jacoby Myers type numbers where he sees 110, 120 targets probably a year and is efficient on those. Colston Loveland wraps up the first round. Luther Burden, who goes with Cam Ward there. So I like the rookie quarterback connection. Cam Ward goes to Tennessee first overall. Luther Burden is their first pick of the second round. So you pair him with an exciting young wide receiver. I like them kind of progressing together. Quinshon Judkins is the 2-2 here. He goes to the Chargers. And it's a weird landing spot, obviously, because they just signed Najee Harris. Najee Harris's deal is 1 year, $5.5 million. That does not mean they're done with him after this year. It does not mean that they're going to hold on to him after this year. If Najee plays well, I mean, what it will mean is that Judkins is probably just in a timeshare during his rookie season. But if Najee plays well, I mean, they could sign him to a 2-year deal after that, a 3-year deal after that. Like, there's a world where throughout Judkins' rookie contract, he's in a timeshare with Najee. Now, if that doesn't happen, you're obviously rolling on the upside here because if Najee departs after next season, Judkins takes over. That's going to be an offense that you want the starting running back in. So have no problem if you want to take Judkins with this landing spot. 55th overall, genuinely as high as like where you have Travion Henderson. I took Higgins at 2-3. That's typically where he lands in almost all my mock drafts. He goes to Carolina, 57th overall. And again, I think they need outside wide receiver help bad, so he fits into that offense well. Caleb Johnson, he's a third-round pick, but he goes to Cleveland, so I took him at the 2-4. Again, that's just a backfield that has a ton of opportunity, and Caleb, in my eyes, is really, really talented, and I think he could take that job immediately. After Caleb, you've got 4 wide receivers go off the rip, kind of varying in all different draft capital. Isaiah Bond, Texas wide receiver, goes to the Rams. Really weird draft pick. I don't agree with a lot of the things that Chad Reuter did in this one, but again, it's good to see just like a wide variety of drafts to kind of be prepared for anything happening. I don't think it'd be crazy to see, a random wide receiver go 32nd overall. We saw, last year, we saw that mishmash of Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman just go within that like 6th draft range. You could see something similar happen in this year's draft as well. So Bond is this undersized. He's actually not even that small. He's like 180 pounds, but he flies on the field. A little bit weird. They already have Puka, obviously. They have Devontae Adams. They just re-signed Tutu Atwell. This pick would make a lot more sense if they didn't re-sign Tutu Atwell, and I think Bond could play that role for sure. I just find it hard to see any upside because of the stacked wide receiver group they already have there. So regardless of him being a first-round wide receiver, I let him drop further than, Caleb's a third rounder, Judkins is a second rounder, Higgins and Burden are second rounders. Bond is the capital, but the landing spot's a little weird for me. Restrepo goes to Buffalo. A little redundancy with Khalil Shakir as a slot guy, but, good quarterback, obviously good player. Trey Harris goes to New England. He's in the 3rd round, but I do just love the pairing of Harris with Drake May. I think he could be their best outside wide receiver almost immediately. And I think there's a lot of upside with a dude like Trey Harris, who's big, strong frame, and can move really well after the catch. Now, there's a chance that by the time you guys watch this, Stephon Diggs already signs with New England. At this point in his career, though, coming off the injury, though, Diggs is not like a player that I'm adjusting other rookie dynasty values around. You know, like if Diggs goes to New England, he'll probably be the wide receiver one there, but it doesn't make me any less bullish on Trey Harris's long-term career. Jalen Noel, really like him as a player, goes to Arizona, pairs with Marvin Harrison Jr., can play the slot role. He's explosive. He gets second-round draft capital, so I think getting him at the 2.8, if he were to go this high in the NFL draft, would be a steal. I like how I'm labeling him a steal, even though I'm the one who did the draft. Next up, we've got Cam Scatterbo. Now, he's a fourth-round pick, but I really like Cam Scatterbo, and he goes to Denver, and that backfield is obviously wide open. Javonte Williams is not there, and Scatterbo's a dude who has a three-down skill set, and I don't know. I think Sean Payton could ride the shit out of Scatterbo if he goes here. So, fourth round, don't love, but love the landing spot. So, just going to bet on my guys here. Jack Besh, early third round, goes to the New York Jets. They need some wide receiver help. I like him as a nice, secure target for Jackson Dart or Justin Fields. So he goes 210. Then we've got QBs back-to-back here, Jalen Milroe and Tyler Shuck. Milroe goes to Las Vegas. Obviously, Geno Smith is there, but Geno Smith is old, and Milroe could be their upside play in 2 years from now. Obviously, insane fantasy upside if he does get onto the field. Tyler Shuck goes to Pittsburgh, where, again, by the time you guys watch this, they might sign Aaron Rodgers. They might re-sign Russell Wilson. So Shuck will be a backup to a veteran at that point. If not, then he might battle Mason Rudolph to see if he could win the starting job there. Not great draft capital and does not guarantee him ever getting onto the field, but I also think that's a situation, a QB situation that is completely wide open as of this recording. So if he does go there, it's intriguing enough to, take that bottom second round pick, and the value of quarterbacks obviously skyrocket when they step on the field. I got to say, though, pretty much after like Scatterbo at the 2.9, Besh at the 2.10, this way the NFL draft kind of played out would make third-round picks really ugly. Dylan Sampson goes to San Fran, so I don't really see a path to playing time as a rookie behind C-Mac and Isaac Guerrero. Jalen Royals, I really like. He goes to Detroit in the third round, but again, not really sure where he starts to get touches behind Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery. So good player, good offense to land in, but not necessarily an opportunistic landing spot. Mason Taylor and Harold Fannin were a little bit tough for me because Mason Taylor gets really good draft capital. He goes to Chicago, 41st overall. Cole Kmet is there. Cole Kmet got a contract extension. They have outs after this year, after next year, if they really want to save money and get rid of him. Possible, but I kind of feel like Cole Kmet's a pretty good player. So I don't know that Mason Taylor steps in as a starter. I guess you have to say if they take him 41st overall, they probably do have a plan to make him the starter 2026, after this year. So interesting. Won't really ever be a high upside player in my opinion. So you let him drop to 3.3 even though he gets good draft capital. Harold Fannin, on the other hand, bad draft capital, goes in the fourth round, but he goes to Jacksonville, and I feel like if they have a tight end there that's good at receiving, Brenton Strange was good, he's fine, he's athletic. Ingram was eating, obviously. I kind of feel like Fannin can play the Evan Ingram role. Obviously not as explosive. Combine numbers were a little bit disappointing, but Fannin is such a good receiver. Again, led the NCAA in receiving yards and receptions last year from a tight end. Crazy numbers. I think he could kind of explode there in Jacksonville. I love the landing spot, regardless of a fourth round capital. After that, we have a mixture of guys whose talent I don't necessarily love on film. Alec Ayamaner goes to the New York Giants in the fourth round. They have a lot of opportunity behind Malik Neighbors, so took a shot on a high upside guy. RJ Harvey, fourth round also, so not good capital, but he goes to the Saints. Alvin Kamara cannot play there forever, unless, right now, he might actually stay there forever. But if not, RJ Harvey can get some opportunity, explosive player. Savion Williams goes to Houston in the third round. More of a gadget player in my eyes. Don't know what his role is going to be. Trevor Etienne is the 3.8. He goes to the Patriots in the third round. Gibson is there as signed through 2026. Ramondre obviously got the extension this year, so I don't really know what Etienne's role would be, if any, here. Maybe a special teams player, maybe, a pass-catching specialist, but I think Ramondre and Gibson are both good pass catchers, so the role is a little bit weird here. And this is a pick I strongly disagree with. After that, we've got Tez Johnson, the super undersized Oregon wide receiver, goes to Cleveland, end of the third round. Tez was another dude whose tape I was really disappointed in. You know, I've seen a lot of comps like Tank Dell and did not see that whatsoever. He's 10 pounds lighter than Dell. I thought his routes were less explosive and very rounded, to be honest with you. Good athlete, but like all of his targets were around the line of scrimmage. And to be honest with you, I didn't think his yak was really impressive either. So Tez Johnson actually kind of feels like this year's Troy Franklin. And Troy Franklin got way more hype than Tez Johnson, but by the NFL draft time, I think they'll probably end up with similar capital, and wasn't in love with either player. Quinn Ewers, I mean, he's the only other second-round quarterback. He goes 50th overall to Seattle. Seattle obviously just signed Sam Darnold, but that could be done in a year or two. I just don't think Quinn Ewers is the answer as a replacement. So despite the great draft capital, not in love with him. Jaden Blue gets second-round draft capital, but he's a pass-catching guy out of Texas, and he goes to Philly. So I don't know what kind of scraps you can expect behind Saquon Barkley for the next 2-3 years. And even if Saquon gets hurt, I don't really have a lot of faith that Blue takes over as the primary runner. Honestly, I'd be kind of surprised if Philly doesn't bring in another veteran running back, someone that they could trust to hand the ball off to. Because, you know, you say what you want about Will Shipley, but again, he wasn't a guy that I was in love with last year either, and they did not trust him whatsoever. When Saquon was out, they would give all the early down work to like Kenneth Gainwell at that point. So that should tell you about where they feel. But Jaden Blue kind of comes in and also, in my eyes, does not fix a problem that they have in the backfield, which is who takes early down work if something were to happen to Saquon. So I don't really see where, if ever, he has a role in that backfield. He goes 311. Elijah Arroyo, third-round pick to Miami. He's my 312. And honestly, I think I'd probably throw him above Blue, Ewers, Tez Johnson, maybe even ETN if I'm going back and redoing this again. Third-round capital is pretty good. He's a good pass catcher, and he goes to a good offense. Jonnu obviously broke out, so I don't see a reason for Miami to move off Jonnu anytime soon, but he's a good replacement for. He's athletic. He's a good pass catcher. He's a pass catching specialist at the tight end position. So I could see him transitioning into the Jonnu role if Jonnu leaves within the next 2 or 3 years. So I'd probably move him up if I did this again. So those are the 3 rounds, all right? Just to recap. Round 1, we got Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, Cam Ward, Tyler Warren, Matthew Golden, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Jackson Dart, Tet McMillan, Travion Henderson, Emeka Egbuka, and Colston Loveland. Travion Henderson was the only second-round pick that made his way into the first round, and that was because he went to Dallas. The second round, we had Luther Burden, Quinshon Judkins, Jaden Higgins, Caleb Johnson, Isaiah Bond, Xavier Estrepo, Trey Harris, Jalen Noel, Cam Scatabo, Jack Besh, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shuck. Round 3, we had Dylan Sampson, Jalen Royals, Mason Taylor, Howard Fannin, Alik Ayumanor, Elik Ayamaner. That is the hardest name in the fucking world to say. RJ Harvey, Savion Williams, Trevor Etienne, Tez Johnson, Quinn Ewers, Jaden Blue, and Elijah Arroyo. All right? Let me know if you liked this breakdown any better, any differently, any more, any less. Ultimately, it didn't actually seem like I did anything different. I ended up going through the picks pretty much pick by pick. But you guys let me know. I'll be doing these weekly, so subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the button that looks like this if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you when I see you.